Welcome to another edition of Stories from the Frontline. I'm Michelle Mortensen. This week, I am coming to you from Palm Desert at my dad and stepmom's home, where we have the absolute pleasure of speaking with more members of Mila's family who are right in the heart of Ukraine in the midst of this horrible, horrible war that Russia has waged on them. Today, we're going to get to meet Olga. Now, that is my stepmom, Mila's niece, and she has been working tirelessly to take care of not only the soldiers fighting in Ukraine, but the people in her community and village. And we're going to get to learn more about what life is like for her right now, right on the front lines. And it is an honor and pleasure to welcome Olga to the show right now. Olga, thank you so much for being here. Olga, if you could just tell us briefly, what has it been like the past few days in your town in the midst of the fighting that's been going on?
In the past few days, it was quiet in her village, but she knows that they're bombing Kiev, and especially last night there was explosion in the area where she used to live and my mother used to live, and there's one person dead. They don't know exactly where it happened in that area, but she said there are a lot of explosions around Kiev right now, and also there are a lot of mines, and people are stepping on them or driving on them, and a lot of people are dying because of the explosions of mines. So the Russians left behind.
They left behind landmines everywhere.
Right. Yeah. And the city is surrounded by, those mines.
На освобожденных территориях, да, на освобожденных территориях очень много заминировано.
Yeah. In the areas that the Russians left, they're not occupying anymore. They left a lot of that stuff. So people are in a real danger.
So when Americans hear that the Russians left, they're under an impression that that means the danger's gone, that the Russians are retreating, that they're losing and Ukraine is winning. But you're saying the Russians leave things to make it even more dangerous. So what is it really like right now?
Кроме мин, наши мужья на войне, наши сыновья на войне.
Well, she's saying even though it's the Russians retreated to the east, they continue bombing the civilians. They're targeting the civilians. A lot of cities and villages in Ukraine are being targeted by missiles, and a lot of people are afraid, and they're hitting like a daycare. They're hitting targets where civilians concentrate, and she is pretty sure that they're targeting Ukrainians. They're not targeting the Ukrainian army, because there is no Ukrainian army in those areas, because Ukrainian army is concentrated on the east right now. And those areas are unprotected, basically.
And then tell me a little bit about the village that you're in. What has the warfare been like there in your town? Because you're not in a big city like Kyiv. So tell me what it's been like there in your town.
На самом деле у нас в Лихновке.
So she's saying that it's been quiet for a few days, but before that, they were right on the border between Russian army and Ukrainian army. So the village was not destroyed, but constantly the explosions were going back and forth, and the neighboring villages are all destroyed. It's a miracle they survived. But even when it was really hard, and she said the house was shaking, the doors were shaking because of the explosions. They were so close. They survived, and they kept working, kept helping people, because there is a way to do it. And now, because of the neighboring villages are all destroyed, but the people are returning home, but there are no houses, so they're trying to help these people. They're collecting food, they're collecting clothes for them, collecting, everyday items, trying to help as much as they can.
For a little bit of perspective, we know some key cities here, like we've heard Mariupol, we've heard Kyiv, we've heard Kharkiv. Where are they in between all these big cities?
Well, they're kind of in the middle. They're close to Kiev. It's a 1 hour ride in a car
Okay.
from Kiev. So they're southeast of Kiev.
Okay.
Where
And
Baryshivka is, Berezan, Baryshivka was bombarded pretty heavily, so they're close to that area.
you know how like here, if we live, like let's say you live in Palm Desert, but let's say you liked the grocery store in Palm Springs, so you go to Palm Springs or whatever. Or like in Vermont, if you lived where Bob's parents were, you'd have to go down to Burlington, like an hour away to get the
Right,
Walmart.
right.
Um, where they live, do they have to go everything in Kiev, or was there lots of stuff in their town?
No, they only have to go to like Baryshivka, Berezan, which is like a half an hour
Half-hour away.
distance. They do not go to Kiev because it's not safe.
Okay. All right. So then my question is this. We've had the pleasure of getting to know your daughters in a previous interview, and we've been learning your story about what you, Olga, are doing for all of the people in your community who need food and need supplies and feeding them. One thing many people here in America wonder about is, how are you even getting food? Where are the stores? Do they have food? What is everyday life like there now for you to meet these needs?
С продуктами у нас было сложно.
What she's saying, a couple of first weeks, there was a little big shortage of food. So they were scrambling. There was no bread for 2 weeks. But because it's a village, they have they have their sources. Every house has some kind of food, especially vegetables and potatoes. And now it's a little bit better. They have stores, and the provisions are being supplied, and milk and bread. There is still a huge shortage with the medicines that they need. And once they had to go to Kiev, drive to Kiev, even though it was not safe, it was dangerous, but they had to go because my mom needed medications and medical supplies. So they were able to go there and get some. And it was like a day trip because of the road closures and bridges that were bombed and basically destroyed. So there is a lot of difficulty to get around. But it's better now in terms of food, not of the medications.
So one of the things that Mila and Tanya and that we're all trying to do is to raise money to help provide food and medicine, not only for your family but the community as a whole that you're feeding. And I believe you're feeding soldiers as well who are fighting and protecting your village. Um, how is that money directly helping then? Because I imagine, I don't know how many people you're feeding now. I don't know how many soldiers you're feeding now, but I'm assuming the numbers are great.
Был момент, когда эти деньги
So what
помогали
she's
просто
saying is about 10 days ago, the reserve, they were feeding and helping. The Army Reserve moved to the east, so they're all gone. Almost all of them are gone.
Oh.
There are very little people left, and there are a lot of volunteers from the village are helping them if it's necessary. Now she's mostly concentrating on the family and on the elderly people that are left there and they cannot take care of themselves. So she's cooking every day, making fresh meals and delivering to these people.
How many elderly people who can't leave for a variety of reasons, how many are left there in your town?
Сейчас до 20 человек.
It's about 20 people.
About 20 people left.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question. Olga, you stayed to take care of your grandma, Mila's mom, who can't leave. And medicine is hard to get. Is there anything that our donations in America, or is there anything we could do to help get more medication to you?
Я на самом деле не знаю, как.
Well, she's saying that any kind of help would be appreciated. If we can send supplies or medicine, it would be appreciated. But it takes a long time right now because of the war. Mostly, she's saying money would be the best bet right now because food is the priority, and if she needs to go to Kiev and buy more medicine, she would do that, even though it might be dangerous, but she would definitely do that. And from my perspective, I sent a package with medicine to Olga about 2 weeks ago. They haven't gotten it yet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's very, very slow. Okay. Um, a few weeks ago, we had the opportunity to meet Dasha and Arina, and those are your daughters. I imagine that had to be very hard to, as a mom myself, that had to be hard to say, I need you to go for your safety and to be away from them. But I also believe it probably gives you a great deal of peace to know that they're okay. Tell us about that experience and that decision and that choice.
Мы только
So
сегодня
she's saying that she was just talking to them today, and she was very happy to hear their voices and see their faces. And of course, even though she misses them terribly because her house was full of kids, 6 kids in the past, she misses them terribly, but she is very grateful and thankful to everybody who helped to get them out of the country. And their safety is her major priority right now. And she's thanking God every day for that.
And then her other kids, they're in Poland.
Yes, the older daughter and the granddaughter are in Poland, and the youngest son, 2 sons are in one. Oh, the oldest son is in the army. He's fighting right now, and the second one is with her right now. He's waiting his turn. To fight, and her husband is fighting too.
Yes, we all got to see a picture of Peter, and we know that he is fighting on the front lines. Have you had an opportunity to communicate with Peter at all? Do you know what's going on, and what is he experiencing?
Вся проблема в нашей жизни
So she's saying that she is able to talk to them, and she knows a little bit where they are, but there is no they're not allowed to tell what's exactly going on and what they're doing, and in terms of safety for them and for the family too, because they're afraid that their conversations are being listened to, so they have no they cannot tell.
Is that hard to not even know?
Yeah, but that's war.
Yeah. Pavel is her brother.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so tell me a little bit about what Pavel was doing. From what I understand, he works for a trucking company in Poland, and he was going into Ukraine and bringing people out in a truck back and forth?
Not necessarily going into Ukraine. He was on the border, on the Polish border, on the Polish side. So he was not in Ukraine. But when the refugees were arriving, he was able to put them in a truck or a car provided by the owner, by the company, and he was transporting them to the camp places, refugee camps.
So the interesting thing about this story of Peter and Pavel and you, even though you're a small family, you have touched every part of this war and of these efforts to protect people, whether it's feeding the elderly, whether it's bringing people who are trying to escape Ukraine and go to Poland to find a place of safety, whether it's fighting on the front lines. You truly are on the front lines of this war. And I think a lot of people in America can't even comprehend what that means or what that's like. So tell us why it is, because we are very impressed with the Ukrainian spirit and the Ukrainian people and how much patriotism they have and how willing they are to lay everything on the line to fight for their country. And I wish that more Americans felt that way. So I wonder if you can put into words how it was that you all came together, just this tiny little family, and said, we're going to do everything we can to fight. Did that make sense as a question?
I think so.
Okay.
Однозначно, да.
Olga is saying absolutely. And it doesn't matter if it's a war or just difficult circumstances. The family comes together, and she is feeling a lot of support from everybody in the family. And she is really grateful for that, in spite of the horror of the war. but she feels that the family is strong and is together, and the whole country. She feels that the whole country is strong and together, although there are some exceptions.
Sure, sure, sure. Agneta is Mila's mom and it's your grandma. And a lot of people want to know how she's doing because she is an amazing woman. She survived uh, the attacks during World War II,
Right.
the bombings in that area, and now she's amazingly surviving and thriving in another war. But she is injured. So can you give us an update on how Agneta is doing?
Ее здоровье, она слабенькая,
Well,
она
she's saying that first of all, her age.
очень
She's
солидный
88.
возраст
She
у
will be
нее, она
89, and
слабенькая, ей
it's an old
тяжело
age for Ukraine.
переносить. Она,
Secondly, she's bedridden,
я
and
так
it's
понимаю,
very
если у нас
hard,
не
and she's
укладывать в
very
голове,
ill, and she's
то у
very
человека, который
weak,
вот так вот
and
без
she cannot
вообще ничего
comprehend
не может этого
what's
понять.
going on and
Она
why
очень
this is going
спрашивает,
on.
зачем
She's
так много
constantly asking
взрывов,
questions.
где
What are the
взрывается вот
explosions?
так, который
What's going on? We need to go and hide. So
физически
it's
сложно,
tough.
тяжело,
She's
да.
very scared, and Olga has to comfort her every day.
Yeah, I imagine. Is it just because of, I imagine it's not just because of her age that there's this, what is going on? Why is this happening? Why did Putin do this? Um, from your perspective in Ukraine, was this just shock that Putin did this? Was this just, I can't believe this happened? Were there any warning signs? Should we have been in America more aware of what was going on and offered more help far sooner? I mean, it is somewhat boggling that he did this and that he's kind of being allowed to do it. It's very frustrating. So I wonder what the perspective is from you.
Это даже сложно назвать шоком. Это
Olga is saying that it's not even a shock. It's much bigger than a shock. They're still in a such disbelief that they cannot believe it, even though it's been over 50 days. And what she's saying, they have common roots. They have common roots, Russians and Ukrainians. That's why it's even more shock. And she's saying that they have relatives in Russia, Russians have relatives in Ukraine. That's why they couldn't believe to what happened. And also, they kind of suspected there was something. What she's saying, she thought that the concentration of army along the border of Russian army, they thought maybe that's because they don't want us to join NATO, they don't want us to to be part of EU, they don't want us to do something, and that's what they're trying to intimidate us, but they never suspected that the war will start.
They never thought it would be this bad.
No. Even when they started bombing the Kiev airport on the 24th, they couldn't still believe that it was real. They thought, oh, it's just intimidation. But then it started to progress. Now they believe it.
I feel like as I've gotten to know more of your family story and even just listening to you now, I know it's scary and I'm sure you are scared, but I don't ever hear fear from you. I hear faith and I hear fearlessness and I hear a bravery that we often don't see, almost like a brazen boldness that you know that you are going to be protected, that you are in the right, that you are covered and shielded, that God's protecting you. It's so interesting to me just to hear that boldness and that braveness from you. Am I interpreting that correctly? Is that truly how you feel?
никогда. Никогда. Как сказал очень
Yes, she's
интересный
saying that even though they're scared, but they all believe that the country will survive. And she says, even if we're all dead, the country will still survive. And it's just painful that the freedom has to be paid with such much blood. But they believe that the whole world is seeing Ukraine as a winner. and they truly believe that they're going to win this war.
We believe you're going to win this war as well, and we stand with you and we fight with you, and anything we can do to give financially, any ways that we can pray for you, any ways that we can help, we stand with you and want to do that. So Olga, thank you so much for sharing your story and how you're helping your community and helping your country and how you're fighting. And I just want to give you an opportunity, if there's anything else that you want the folks here in America to know about you or what you're doing or what's going on there, I want to give you an opportunity to kind of speak directly to them.
Одно огромное чувство большой сердечной
Olga is saying that she is grateful from the bottom of her heart. Not only she, all Ukrainian people are very, very grateful for financial support and for emotional, psychological support. And the whole world are amazed how much support they get from the whole world and the United States in particular. And they're absolutely grateful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we stand with you and we pray the Lord's protection over you. And we pray that God bless Ukraine and that this war is over soon and that Ukraine is not only victorious, but that it comes out stronger and better than ever before. And that Ukraine's best days lie ahead. And I thank you for giving us so much of your time today for Stories from the Frontline, Olga. And I thank those of you at home for joining us as well and learning more about the stories from the front line, what is happening directly in Ukraine. And I thank you who have also given and supported this family and our efforts to help the people of Ukraine, to feed the people of Ukraine, to get them the much needed medicine that they need. If you would also like to help, please check out the website that's on the screen right now, Ukraine United, so that you can help give to this cause as well. Every single dime goes directly to the people of Ukraine, the actual people that you've been meeting in these stories from the front line, stories that we've been bringing to you. This family and the surrounding people in those communities, we are directly helping them. And we can't thank you enough for that support. I also want to give a special thank you to Mila, my stepmom, who did translation for us today. She didn't want to be on camera, but of course, none of this would have been possible without her. So until next time, I'm Michelle Mortensen, and we look forward to bringing you even more stories from the front lines.